Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about a really important topic, how to naturally heal alopecia through diet. Given that alopecia is an autoimmune condition, our guest today, Almas, has been on a personal journey with autoimmune health for the past 7 years and is now an autoimmune coach. Almas believes in the power of healing from within. So, Almas, welcome. Could you share a little bit about yourself and your autoimmune journey?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting to be talking about the stuff that I love talking about to the world. Um, my name is Almas. I have been dealing with alopecia for about 18, 19 years at this point, a very, very long time. I was diagnosed in my late teens, mid teens. And it was a very tough journey for me to get diagnosed because I started off with alopecia universalis, which is the most extreme version of the disease. And I had no hair on my scalp, no hair brows, anywhere on my body. I had no hair, and it was kind of something really hard to navigate when you don't know what's going on with your body and you're a teenager. So, you don't have the resources like we do today. It was just a very tough time. And over the course of many years, I've been able to kind of figure out a lot of different modalities, what works, what doesn't work. And I've kind of made a sauce of what works for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm so happy that you joined today, share your journey, and I'm sure you have a lot of exciting things to share. So you're an expert on that. So my first question is, how did you naturally heal your alopecia?
Okay. So I think the word heal is a bit of a loaded question or a loaded word because in the conventional medicine, the Western medicine that we have, they say that any autoimmune condition you have, you can't heal it. And I believe in functional medicine, which is the type of medicine that really heals you, looks at the root cause from within, and helps you heal from the inside out. They say that you can heal from autoimmune diseases, including alopecia. So that was something I kind of had to change my perspective on very early on in my alopecia journey is I can heal. I am able to heal. My body is able to heal. So that was the first step is Western medicine saying one thing and then functional medicine saying another thing. And I definitely chose the functional medicine route. Um, a big part in my healing journey was seeing a functional medicine doctor, and so they're also called naturopathic doctors. And they're just they're trained basically into look at what's really going on at the root cause. For example, if your hair is falling out, the issue is not the hair fall. The issue is something else that's really going on within your body, inside of your in different systems or whatever may be happening. So they're trained and they're experienced in helping with that. So once I started seeing a naturopath, a functional medicine doctor, that's when I started realizing that regardless of what the symptoms are on the outside, regardless of what's going on with your autoimmune conditions, there really is a focus to have to go within. So they were able to start me off with the basics, which is diet, because diet is the one thing I feel that, especially when you have an autoimmune condition, it's hard to know what's right, what's not right. So I was put on the autoimmune protocol, and it's a diet plan, which is very, very, very restrictive. So that was the first step in healing my alopecia. Essentially, what you're allowed to eat on the autoimmune protocol is the simplest way to explain what you can eat on this diet is meats and vegetables. That's pretty much it. You can't eat anything else. You're having meats and vegetables for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. And it's definitely. I was on this diet for about a year and maybe about 14 months or so. So when I went on this diet, I really didn't know what to expect, but I knew that no matter what, like my mission was to grow my hair out. And just to give you a little bit of a backstory, when you and I worked together a few years ago, um, I did have alopecia at that time. However, I had grown some of my hair from the universalis stage where I didn't have any hair anywhere. And that kind of happened naturally. So I can't say that I did anything specifically in that part of my life where things just kind of grew back. But the last year and a half, I went back to my naturopath and I was like, that's it. Like I still right now have some spots in my on my scalp that I don't have hair. So it was kind of like with the intention of like, you know what, I'm taking my health very seriously moving forward and I want to grow back those spots. Like I want to have a full head of hair. And so the last year and a half is really when I started taking my health more seriously. And that's when I went on the autoimmune protocol. So prior to that, I was gluten free, dairy free, soy free, all of those. But when you're on the autoimmune protocol, it's really restrictive in the sense that you cannot eat, rice. You cannot eat grains. You cannot eat, uh, hummus. You cannot eat like things that we think are healthy,
Yeah.
and they are healthy. I'm not saying they're not, but when it comes to the protocol, there's a lot of restrictions because you're really stripping away everything from your diet in order to really heal your gut. Because alopecia is strongly related to your gut and your gut health. So with that, when I did the autoimmune protocol, which was the first step, um, a lot there was a lot of things in my life that had to change. My social life wasn't the same anymore. I couldn't go out to eat in restaurants, or if I was going to social gatherings at families or friends' houses, I would be the one with my little Tupperware with my own food. Like, so in that sense, it took a lot of persistence and consistency to do it. And all that to say, the the great thing about the autoimmune protocol is I was able to see changes in other autoimmune conditions that I had. So it
Oh,
really
wow.
did affect me in a positive way in that sense. It really helped. However, I didn't see the hair growth I was looking to see on the spots that I still had hair. So although I felt a little discouraged, I still knew there was more work for me to do. And then I kind of moved on to the next part of things, and on top of eating the autoimmune protocol diet, I was also taking a lot of supplements. Those supplements really helped in many ways, and those supplements were recommended to me by my naturopathic doctor, specific to my blood work, specific to what's really going on in my body. So once I did that, then I started realizing, look, it's not only about the diet. That's a very small part of it. And it's important, but it's, I want to say, like 30% of the big equation. And so I did a little bit more research. I started doing a little bit more digging. And then I realized the second pillar was your environmental toxins, your lifestyle. That's another thing. So there was that I had to optimize. How much sleep am I getting? How much um, screen time? All these kind of things. And then the third thing was um, focusing on my nervous system. So the long story short, to answer your question, how did I heal my alopecia? It's not fully healed yet. I'm still working on it. But the long story short is I had to work on those three things. I had to work on my diet, my lifestyle, and my nervous system regulation, which was probably the biggest part.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting, and it's a long journey. And yeah, but I'm happy. I'm really happy you're on it. So I'm excited to see like your result. I'm still seeing a result, but yeah, want to learn more about it and hear more about it. And you kind of touch on like one of the questions I had, so because I wanted to ask you like if you tell us a little bit about the autoimmune triad, because
Mhm.
I noticed that on your page you share about it, and you mentioned that these are the three important things for managing autoimmune conditions, which is that you mentioned now nutrition, lifestyle, mind.
Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit about that, but I want to like know like what else, like if you have any tips or
Mhm,
anything that you recommend. So what changes you have made to your lifestyle that it's
mhm,
part of that triad, or anything you want to share to
mhm.
people that are listening.
So the autoimmune triad is something that I kind of pinned as a term because I like this kind of rings, sounds good. But it was the three things that I found that were the most important things in my healing journey. Um, Diet, like I said, and then there was the lifestyle and the mind. So the mind is what I'll get into a little bit in terms of what it means. What I started realizing what the importance of regulating your nervous system for autoimmune conditions and for alopecia. So when we go through life, things happen. We have our traumas, we have our ups, we have our downs, and I think through all of this, throughout our lives, all this stuff, all of these traumas, they get stored in our body on a physical level, and when it's stored in our body, we that's when autoimmune diseases start to develop. So there is a very strong link between those two things. And so then I was like, you know what? What if I start unpacking the trauma? What if I start regulating my nervous system? What if I stop living in fight and flight? Like fight, flight is like we're constantly on the go. We're always fight and flight. We're don't even take a second to like sit down and take a breath half the times, because we're just wired to be constantly in fight and flight. And so our nervous systems in that instance, they're not in rest and digest, which is what we should be 90% or most of the time, right? We need the fight and flight when there's something serious that needs to be uh, like some sort of serious trauma, some sort of, something that we need to kind of fight off, or we're in trouble in some way. But we should not be in that state all the time. And when we are in that state, most of the time, that's when autoimmune conditions develop. So then I was like, let's go down this route and let's figure this out. And that led me to therapy, that led me to breath work, meditation, many different modalities. And that really helped me, in a sense, I want to say rewire my nervous system, regulate my nervous system. And when I was able to do that, then all the other autoimmune conditions, including my alopecia, that's when I really started seeing the difference. That's when I started seeing hair growth in places that I have not seen hair growth in 20 years. Everybody that I'm going around, they're like, oh my gosh, your hair looks so much fuller. Your hair looks so much fuller. Um, and so there was kind of this like learning period and this transition that okay, diet is important, lifestyle is important, but for me, the most important part of my journey was nervous system regulation.
Wow, that's really interesting. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it does make a very big impact on
Mhm,
your nervous system and how you feel. Because even if you're on a perfect diet,
mhm,
but you still like in that fight or flight mode,
mhm,
so you still don't let your body to calm down. And
mhm.
then, yeah, like that's very, very exciting that you shared.
And
Yeah.
another thing which is interesting is like because I was so strict with this diet, I needed to do that for as long as I did, but also the how strict I was caused its own stress in my life. So it was kind of like countering the whole point of doing the autoimmune protocol in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Because it happens to me too. I was following a diet, like just very strict, but it wasn't as strict as your diet. So, which you mentioned that you were just like eating meat and vegetables. I'm like, wow. Like for me, it was like I cut gluten, I cut dairy, but for example, on the weekend, I was still like when I go out with a friend, I still eat what I want to eat, which I don't think it's the best way for the diet, but I was like trying to be more relax about it. But at some point, it was for a month or two that I was super strict.
mhm,
And I was also like nervous because of that
mhm,
diet. Like I was like, okay, did I follow the same thing? And when you mentioned that, I'm like, wow, this is exactly how I feel. And I was talking to a friend and she was like, I understand like it's very important for you. This diet is important. But having this feeling of like, oh, I did I eat well? Like, is it puts the stress again on you, and the stress has connection with all these autoimmune like
triggering
conditions.
triggering
Yeah,
your alopecia. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Exactly. And a lot of time, like for example, when someone's going through alopecia, people say like, "Oh, try to be relaxed. Try to," but it's very difficult sometimes to be relaxed because you're seeing yourself in the mirror that you're losing your hair, and then how
Yeah,
can you be relaxed at that moment?
yeah,
So it's all like connected. It's like that triangle or triad that you mentioned. So it's all they're all connected together, which is very interesting.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had four autoimmune conditions, and I'm only down to one now. I just have alopecia.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm very, very, very happy at how well things worked out for me. And that's what keeps me motivated to keep going. Like, okay, like I was
Yeah.
able to heal three of my four conditions. Like, what more can I do? What more can my body do? Um, but what I was going to say is, out of the four that I had, in my experience, the toughest one was alopecia, because it was the one that is the most visible to other people, and the one that I think had the most traumatic impact on me. The other ones,
Yeah.
I had them, but it was just always like hidden behind the scenes. So you kind of just learn to
Yeah.
with alopecia,
Exactly.
I feel like I never ever, I adapted, but it's always something that I think about in the back of my
Yeah.
head all the time. Even like with having hair, I'm able to kind of cover up a lot of my spots and it doesn't show. And like, I fill in some of my brows and, all that.
Mhm.
It's still something that's on my mind all the time.
Yeah.
It plays with your
Yeah. It's very
self-esteem,
challenging. Yeah. It's very
with all the
challenging.
things in your life.
It is. Yeah. And I personally relate to that, and I know how it feels. Like all the challenges that I went through, like alopecia, like
Mhm.
from eyebrows, eyelashes, and hair. And the challenging thing is like you never know when you're losing it. Because
Mhm.
2 months ago, like I was on that diet, and I see like result. Like all of my hair went back. Like I had
Mhm.
all of my hair back, eyelashes, eyebrows, and it was going perfect. And my body was working finally. And then I was getting excited, but after 2 months, I see like again I'm losing hair, and I'm like, why? Like I don't even know like why. Whenever like I see like for example spots, and I'm like I'm just curious at this moment to find out like why I'm on the same diet
Mhm.
again. Like and even my lifestyle was the same as two
Mhm.
months ago, like meditation, like exercise, but then I saw like hair loss again. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm super excited. Like, I want to know what. That's what I was got curious of what Almas is doing. Like, I need to maybe do the same thing because it looks like my body is like now where it's working. Let
Mhm.
me play a little. So like lose the hair. So I was like surprised like 2 months ago, like all my hair was back, and I'm like,
Mhm.
what's happening again?
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
And it's
yeah.
almost like difficult when you kind of get that tease, you're like, oh, here you go, your hair's growing.
Mm,
And, it's
yeah,
away from you again. And it's just like, here we go again.
yeah.
But I think that's just our bodies telling us that, like, the hair is the superficial stuff, right? So if
Mhm.
it's falling out again, I think that's all the more reason for us to really figure out, like, what's going on inside. Like, why is this happening?
Mhm.
And I've spoken to a lot of people that also have alopecia. And actually, we have a group. There's someone that I met that has a group, just a call every month. If you want to join, you're more than you're more than welcome to join. It's just a call with a bunch of us that have alopecia. And when I was talking to those women, they were all kind of like, we all realized that our triggers of what caused us to have alopecia in the first place, they were all different. Like everybody's triggers were
Mhm.
different. So one of the girls in the group, her trigger was she got off of birth control. So that triggered alopecia for her. For me, it was different. For me, it was more like trauma related and like I had Hashimoto's, which is another autoimmune condition. It was all kind of interlinked with that. My hormones are perfectly fine. There's no problem with my hormones. Another person, it was some traumatic event that happened to her recently, and then that caused her hair to fall out. So, it just goes to show that all of our triggers can be very different, and all of our bodies are very different, and it's not a one size fits all. It's about
Mhm.
finding what's going on with you, specifically you, and
Yeah,
how to go from there. And that's
yeah,
why,
that's huge.
sorry, I was just going to say that's when you go see like a doctor, a naturopathic doctor, they're doing all these tests. Like I did get my hormones checked and they were all fine.
Mhm.
And I checked other things.
Mhm.
and like my vitamin D was very low, and this was very high.
Mhm.
Just like many things. So it's all individual. We all may have the
Well,
hair loss, but what's going on inside the body is very different for everybody.
yeah, good to know. It's not something that everybody's like their autoimmune is triggered based on one specific thing. It's just so
Exactly.
different for different persons.
It is.
Okay.
It is. It is.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's really interesting at the same time when you hear that it's like you feel like it's more challenging. So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
fulfill that, yeah,
It just shows how intricate we all are and how different we all are. And that's what
yeah.
makes it hard for me to, even say like yes, the autoimmune triad is very important. It's the basics for everybody to be on the same page. But once
Mhm.
you've kind of figured out like your lifestyle, you figured out your diet, you figured out like you've worked
Mhm.
through your nervous system, and it's still not working out for you, then that's where you need to
Mhm.
keep digging, and that's where you can be very different
Yeah,
from another person.
yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's a great insight.
Hmm.
And last questions I have here. So, it's do different autoimmune. It's a bit similar to what we had, like we were talking about, but it's more about food. Do different autoimmune conditions share any common dietary things to avoid? Like
Hmm.
any foods that you recommend avoiding for autoimmune conditions?
Absolutely. So, in my experience, like I said, I had many autoimmune conditions. And when I went on the autoimmune protocol, I wasn't expecting to fix anything else. I went into the autoimmune protocol wanting to just grow my hair. That was the goal. But when I eliminated a lot of the things, which I'll get to in just a second, it really helped my Hashimoto's, which is your thyroid being too slow, not producing enough of your thyroid hormone. So you need to take hormone replacement for that. And when I was on the diet, suddenly there's one of the things you need to check when you have Hashimoto's. It's called anti-TPO, which is your antibody levels in your system. And suddenly my antibody levels went from really high to like in the 30s, like from the 200s down to 30s. And I was like, okay, so this diet is doing something for me.
Mhm.
Um, so definitely avoiding if you're not doing the autoimmune protocol, which again is difficult to do long term. Then you have to definitely cut out gluten and dairy. Those two, I think, are the major culprits, and they basically leak into your gut and cause leaky gut, and that's why you have all the issues that you do. Um, Gluten, dairy, soy, and sugar, like refined sugar.
Mhm.
Those are
Yeah.
four major things I would say to avoid. And with that, you'll see major differences in the way that you feel, the way that your
Mhm.
conditions are acting up. It makes a big difference.
I see. And are you still on that strict diet of yours? Like you
No.
mentioned, it's a year. You cut.
So,
Okay.
so the autoimmune protocol, there are different phases of the diet. So I was on the elimination phase for about a year. And then
Okay.
the whole point of being on this diet is to kind of like give your gut a clean slate, a clean break.
Mhm.
And then you start reintroducing things back into your diet and you see how you're reacting to certain things. So, for example, one of the first things I reintroduced was egg. Was it egg yolk or egg white? I think egg yolk was the first thing that I reintroduced, just the yolk. And then you have to reintroduce that for 3 days. See how you feel in those 3 days. Is your body feeling a certain way? If you have other kind of autoimmune conditions like arthritis or
Mhm.
are those acting up for you? So it's really listening to your body, and then slowly you start reintroducing things back into your diet. So after the egg yolk, I was fine. After 3 days, then I introduced the egg white for 3 days. I was fine
Mhm.
after that, and then I reintroduced a little bit of rice, and then I was okay with that for 3 days, and so on and so on. So there's a whole protocol for the reintroduction. Excuse me, the reintroduction.
Wow.
You introduce things one at a time. And again, I did not react to egg yolks, but someone else on the autoimmune protocol that reintroduces egg yolk might react to it, right? So again, that's another example how we're all different and we all react.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's different with different people. And I remember you told me something very interesting. You shared something interesting long time ago. We went to brunch together and we were talking about like dairy and gluten. And I
Mhm.
asked you, like, does it really matter if we, like, oh, you told me that. You said, like, if you, for example, drink a glass of milk or even a bottle of milk, it doesn't matter. It's just like impact that healing journey, and you have to be very strict with it. So if you're on that
Mhm.
diet, you don't have to like cheat. There is no cheat days. There is no weekend that you could go have that a slice of pizza or drink that glass of milk. So it's you have to just stick to it. So which is yeah,
It,
it's
it's
interesting to
a it's a matter of shifting your mindset around it too. You know, like I think there's this culture of like, oh, you can have a cheat day when if
yeah.
let's say we're following a workout plan and like your trainer tells you, oh, like today is cheat day, you can eat whatever you want. It's okay. The next 5 6 days you're going to be working out. I think that's
Yeah.
a different way to look at things because you're going there to maybe lose weight, but you're not going there with autoimmune health problems like you
Mhm.
mentioned. We have these problems that are lifelong. And so to have a cheat day for us where we're having a normal slice of pizza, where we're having a glass of milk, or we're having ice cream, is setting us back
Mhm.
like 10 steps of the progress that we've already
Yes.
made. So that's
Yeah.
why for me, it's very easy to not eat gluten, dairy, soy, or sugar because those are the four things I 100% avoid all the time now. Um,
Mhm.
it's just very easy for me to do that because I like if I have this glass of milk right now, I know, or if I have this slice of pizza, I know this gluten from this slice of pizza is going to stay in my system for 6 months. They say it stays up
Oh
to
wow.
for up to 6 months. And with casein, which is in dairy, I think it's about the same. And so I'm like, I don't want gluten to stay stuck in my system for 6 months, right? Then it's circulating in my body for 6 months and it's triggering me
Yeah.
for 6 months. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know it will stay for 6 months. So that's why you were telling me that time. Because I was like, I'm gonna ask Almas this question because I'm still thinking about that.
yeah,
Think she shared with me. Like I was like, okay, it's just, like a weekend you do that and then you're gonna like
yeah.
stick to your diet. She was like, no. And I was like, I have to ask her, but 6 months.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I think the period of gluten staying in your body is 6 months. So even accidentally, if I have gluten from, I don't know, something by cross contamination or whatever, it's in my system. And so the more it accumulates, the more chances are that, your body's just going to be fighting that off. Your immune system's going to be triggering whatever autoimmune condition, alopecia that you
Yeah.
have. So that's always been kind of in the back of my mind, and that's the mindset that keeps me going no matter what. Like, no, I'm not touching gluten,
Mhm.
I'm not touching dairy, I'm not touching
Wow.
or anything like that, because I know what's actually the kind of impact that it
Mhm.
has in my body.
Wow, it's good to know. Now I get this feeling that okay, so I'm not gonna have any like any even like cheat
Yeah,
days, or I have to be very, very aware of it. So
yeah.
6 months, it's a long
And I
time.
think
Yeah. Wow.
another thing to keep in mind too, like I think it's more common now for people to be gluten free, dairy free, and all that. Um, but I'm realizing also is like when we're out there and we go to the grocery store and we buy something that's labeled gluten free or we label something
Mhm,
that's dairy free, those labelings don't necessarily mean that it's good for you. Like that's another
mhm,
side of the coin where you think you're eating healthier because this says gluten free, dairy free, soy free, plant based, all
mhm.
that stuff. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you. So for me, the rule of thumb is um, as long as it's like whole foods, right? If it's anything that's boxed and it has a bajillion ingredients, even if it says gluten free, dairy free, it's not good for you. So
Oh, okay.
basically, anything that you can't find in nature on its own, I try to stay away.
Mhm, mhm. Where do you usually get your stuff? Like, for example, for gluten-free products or let's say dairy-free?
It just depends which grocery store you go to, but I go to, like for example, here in Montreal, we have something called Maxi. I don't know if they have
Mhm.
that in Ontario
I
or
remember now. Mhm.
but
I think
Maxi
we
has
do
a
have.
very good selection of things for in the states. I spend quite a bit of time in the states as well, and over there they
Mhm.
have like Whole Foods, a store called
Yeah.
Whole Foods and Sprouts, and those places they have really good food too, good replacements. But um, I usually I spend most of my time in the produce aisle, like where there's all the fruits and the vegetables and all of those things. I don't spend that much time in the other aisles because
Mhm.
that's where
Mhm.
you have all the processed stuff. So when I was gluten free, dairy free, soy free, let's say
Mhm.
5 6 years ago, I was still eating all the crappy things, even though they were gluten free, dairy free. And when I
Hmm.
made that switch and I kind of eliminated all processed foods, that was a huge bump in my health, and I felt much better as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
And like you shared a lot, like very like great insight, great points and tips. I didn't even know about it. I thought I know it, like know a lot about like diet, but
Yeah.
today I learned a lot from you.
I
Thank
want
you for that.
everybody to know everything about alopecia because I want everybody with alopecia to like grow their hair out because it's just such a tough thing to have and to
Yeah,
have to go through.
yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you for again sharing that. And any other tips that you want to share, or any other insight that you have that I didn't ask you about it, or anything you want to share?
I would say like make meditation a part of your daily practice. Like meditation is so crucial, has been for me so crucial in um, just really regulating my nervous system. And it was a big part of my healing journey. So meditation for me has been really, really important. And I recommend everyone to do that. I think it's so important. Um, yeah.
Awesome. So your insight, I could tell like it helps a lot of people like who struggle with autoimmune disorder, whether it's alopecia or something else. It really helps. And I found it it's wonderful to hear real life stories about health journeys, because it's incredibly powerful to listen to how people like took a specific steps to heal their and transfer their lives. And it's very inspiring to hear your stories and your insight. Thank you again
Thank you
for
so much for
joining.
having me.
Yeah, I hope you like have a great day, and I will keep in touch with you. And if I come to Montreal, we're definitely gonna hang out and talk more about food and healthy stuff.
Love that. I'd love that.
Awesome, thank you.